Between 1997 and 2017, the Houston metropolitan area paved over 1,000 square kilometers, transforming an area larger than the entire city of Dallas into roads, parking lots, and subdivisions in just 20 years. San Diego faced the same growth pressures. But by 2002, the city hit a wall. Less than 10% of developable land remained vacant. When most American cities run out of room, they keep building, expanding, and swallowing up neighboring towns. San Diego couldn't. So instead of becoming another sprawling concrete metropolis like Phoenix or Atlanta, it fractured into something completely different. San Diego ranks as the 8th largest city in the United States. Yet walk through its neighborhoods and you'll find 3-story buildings along the coast, open space cutting through dense urban zones, and distinct village pockets that don't merge together. So, what stops San Diego from sprawling outward like every other Sunbelt city? And what transformed a metropolis into dozens of villages? San Diego is surrounded by 4 absolute boundaries. The Pacific Ocean runs along the entire western edge. The peninsular mountain ranges block the east. The international border with Mexico sits directly to the south. And Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton occupies a massive stretch of coastline to the north, functioning as an immovable wall of federally protected land. These physical and geopolitical limits cause something city planners call an island effect. Because of this, San Diego exists in a fixed geographic container with a hard ceiling on how much it can expand. By 2002, the city was running out of room. Planning documents described less than 10% of developable land remaining, with only a small share of land still vacant for new growth. Every other major Sunbelt metro was still sprawling during this period, but San Diego couldn't. This forced the city to stop thinking about growth as an outward process and start turning inward, focusing on revitalizing and redeveloping what already existed rather than annexing new territory. San Diego couldn't sprawl. But running out of land was only the beginning. The real question was, what would physically keep the city from becoming one continuous mass like Los Angeles or Phoenix? San Diego is built on top of and around nearly 150 canyons and creeks scattered throughout the metropolitan area. These deep, rugged natural features slice through dense urban zones, creating physical gaps that roads and buildings can't easily cross. Most major cities flatten their terrain or fill in natural obstacles to create continuous development. San Diego's canyons function as islands of open space that physically separate neighborhoods and prevent the city from ever feeling like a concrete jungle. You can be in a busy commercial district, turn a corner, and suddenly find yourself looking down into a canyon filled with native vegetation. Cross a bridge or drive up a hill, and you're in a completely different neighborhood with its own character and identity. The city doesn't flow seamlessly the way Los Angeles or Phoenix does. It fragments. This fragmentation isn't accidental. In 1998, a citizen-led movement pushed the city to adopt policies limiting development and road building at the base of canyons. This led to the permanent dedication of thousands of acres of city-owned canyon land as protected open space parkland, scattered throughout the urban area in dozens of separate natural corridors. These canyons do more than create scenic views. They also define the boundaries of communities. A neighborhood on one side of a canyon can't easily expand into the neighborhood on the other side. The natural topography enforces separation in a way that zoning laws or political boundaries never could. In 2002, San Diego made this fragmentation official by adopting the City of Villages strategy. This concept rejects the traditional model of one massive, continuous urban footprint. Instead, it envisions the city as a collection of compact, mixed-use centers linked by transit. Each village is designed as a community-oriented center where commercial spaces, jobs, civic buildings, and housing coexist within walking distance. This strategy preserves the vast majority of single-family residential areas while directing higher density redevelopment into specific zones. The goal is to create distinct, walkable communities rather than forcing the entire city to become one unified mass. On paper, this sounds like a planning ideal that dozens of cities claim to pursue. But in most places, the City of Villages model is aspirational. In San Diego, the canyons make it inevitable. The city is organized around natural features that break up the urban landscape into discrete pieces. Each piece becomes its own village, physically distinct from the others. But there's another boundary cutting through San Diego that's even more unusual. Because while most American cities bump up against other American cities, San Diego shares its southern edge with a completely different country. San Diego sits at the northern anchor of the largest cross-border metro area shared between the United States and Mexico. The combined regional population exceeds 5 million people, split between San Diego and Tijuana. The two cities are separated by an international border, a physical wall, and two entirely different legal and economic systems. Yet they function as parts of the same metropolitan region. The San Isidro Port of Entry is the busiest land border crossing in the Western Hemisphere, processing about 90,000 northbound travelers a day. In peak years, the annual total sits above 50 million individual crossings. The sheer volume of cross-border traffic makes San Diego's economy codependent with Mexico. San Diego provides high-tech industries, biotech research, and corporate headquarters. Tijuana has become one of North America's biggest medical device manufacturing hubs, giving the region a massive industrial base that supports the whole cross-border economy. Products designed in San Diego are manufactured in Tijuana. Workers live on one side of the border and commute to jobs on the other. Supply chains cross back and forth multiple times before a finished product reaches a consumer. This integration is so deep that local officials have proposed binational villages and shared infrastructure projects that would span both sides of the international boundary. The idea sounds politically impossible, but economically, it already exists. The border creates legal separation, but the two cities operate as a single functional region. What makes this unusual is that most American border cities feel peripheral. El Paso, Laredo, and Brownsville are positioned at the edge of the U.S. economy, far from major population centers and economic hubs. San Diego, the 8th largest city in the country and a major economic player, has its most important relationship with a city on the other side of an international border. This binational identity reinforces San Diego's fragmented nature. The city is a metropolis that looks outward across a border rather than inward toward its own endless suburbs. But even within San Diego's borders, the city made a series of deliberate choices that prevented it from following the standard American playbook. In 1972, San Diego voters approved Proposition D, setting a 30-foot height limit across most of the coastal zone west of Interstate 5, with notable exclusions in parts of downtown. Changing major pieces of this regulation has repeatedly required voters to sign off. The initiative passed with over 60% support, driven by residents who didn't want their coastline to disappear behind a wall of high-rises. The law is absolute. No exceptions and no special permits for luxury developments. Everything west of the highway stays at 3 stories or below. This created a uniform townscape from Point Loma to La Jolla that looks nothing like Miami, Honolulu, or any other major coastal city in the United States. 1972 was the exact moment when many American coastal cities were racing to build beachfront towers. Miami's skyline exploded during this period. San Diego could have followed the same path. The economic incentives all pointed toward going vertical, but the height limit stopped it. And because the restriction was embedded in law through a voter initiative, it couldn't be quietly undone by a sympathetic city council or a well-connected developer. Changing it would require another public vote. That vote has never happened. As a result, San Diego has a coastline that feels like a small beach town. You can walk along the shore and see the ocean from almost anywhere. Buildings don't block sightlines or cast long shadows across the sand. The scale stays human. This is another way San Diego avoided a common urban planning trap of the 20th century. Most coastal cities let developers capitalize on ocean views by building as tall as possible. The people who can afford top-floor condos get the views. Everyone else gets blocked. San Diego spread the coastline horizontally, ensuring that access to the ocean remains a daily presence rather than a luxury amenity. But there's a strange irony buried in all of this. Because while San Diego successfully preserved its natural beauty and avoided many of the mistakes other cities made, it didn't escape every problem. The same geographic limits that forced smart planning decisions also created pressures that the city still hasn't solved. San Diego's official slogan is "America's finest city." The phrase appears on government buildings, tourist brochures, and city welcome signs. It sounds like a proud declaration of success. But the origin of the slogan tells a different story. In 1972, San Diego was selected to host the Republican National Convention. It should have been a major moment for the city, a chance to showcase itself on a national stage. Then a bribery scandal involving the International Telephone and Telegraph Corporation broke. The convention was moved to Miami. San Diego was left with nothing but public embarrassment. To boost morale, Mayor Pete Wilson proclaimed the week the convention was supposed to happen as America's Finest City Week. The slogan stuck, becoming a permanent part of the city's identity, but it was born out of failure, not triumph. That contradiction runs through San Diego's entire development story. The city avoided sprawl, preserved its coastline, and protected its canyons. It created a unique urban form that feels more livable than most American metros. But those same geographic constraints that forced good planning decisions also created scarcity. San Diego ranks as one of the least affordable housing markets in the country. The median home price consistently sits among the highest in the nation. In the early 2000s, the city reported a $2.5 billion shortfall in public facilities and infrastructure already identified in adopted community plans. Housing supply can't keep up with demand because available land is so limited, pushing prices higher and making it nearly impossible for middle-income families to afford living there. The City of Villages strategy directs growth into specific zones, which should theoretically create more housing. But building dense, mixed-use developments in established neighborhoods is slow and expensive. And the vast majority of single-family areas remain protected, limiting how much new construction can actually happen. The binational economy with Tijuana creates opportunities, but it also means many workers live in Mexico and commute to San Diego because housing is cheaper across the border. The coastline stays beautiful and accessible, but the 30-foot height limit prevents the kind of density that could bring down housing costs near the beach. San Diego escaped the mistakes of infinite sprawl, but it didn't escape the consequences of finite land. The city is trapped between preserving what makes it special and providing enough housing for the people who want to live there. Every decision to protect open space or limit development amplifies scarcity. Every attempt to build more housing runs into geographic barriers that can't be moved. San Diego didn't choose to be different. Geography forced it. The ocean, the mountains, the border, and the marine base created a fixed container that made infinite sprawl impossible. What emerged is a metropolis that functions as a collection of villages, separated by canyons and connected by transit. A major American city with a 3-story coastline and open space cutting through its urban center. A binational economy that treats an international border as a permeable membrane rather than a hard edge. San Diego avoided many of the traps that define 20th century American urbanism. It didn't pave over its natural features or wall off its coastline with towers. It created a livable, walkable city that feels different from Houston, Phoenix, or Atlanta. But the same constraints that forced those outcomes also created new problems. Housing remains unaffordable. Infrastructure investment lags. The city can't expand, and densifying what already exists is slow and politically difficult. San Diego is the opposite of every US city because it had no other choice but to be. Whether that makes it America's finest city or just America's most geographically constrained city depends on whether you're trying to preserve what exists or build enough housing for everyone who wants to live there. The city is still figuring out which of those goals matters more.